If you struggle understanding the difference between sufficient and necessary assumption questions, one thing that helped me was when I learned the theory behind these two question types. We can start with a review of sufficiency and necessity. When one condition is sufficient for another, the presence of that condition guarantees the presence of the other. So if I say all red cars go fast, I know that if my car is red, it goes fast. One thing to remember here is that the absence of the sufficient condition doesn't tell me anything. So if I have a blue car, I don't know anything. When dealing with necessity, I know that a necessary condition is guaranteed by a sufficient condition. So typically I use this by taking a contrapositive. The contrapositive tells me that when a necessary condition isn't present, the sufficient condition must also not be present. I do this by flipping the terms to the other side of the arrow and negating them. To use our example from before, if my car doesn't go fast, then it must not be red. You're probably still asking, how does this apply to sufficient and necessary assumption questions? Let me show you. With a sufficient assumption question, I'm being asked to identify an assumption that will guarantee the truth of the conclusion. The assumption becomes the sufficient condition, and the conclusion becomes the necessary condition. In practice, what this looks like is modifying some conditional logic chain by inserting an assumption that then makes sure that my conclusion is true. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. So, premise, all red cars go fast. Conclusion, my car goes fast. If I assume that my car is red and insert that conditional into this chain, my conclusion is guaranteed to be true. It could still be true if my car was blue, but this way it's guaranteed. Here's another example you might see. Premise, my car is red. Conclusion, my car goes fast. If I assume that all red cars go fast and insert that conditional into this chain, once again, my conclusion is guaranteed to be true. What about necessary assumptions? When I'm looking at a necessary assumption question, the best way to approach it is the negation test. Why does the negation test work though? Well, let's return to the idea of the contrapositive. With a necessary assumption question, I have the opposite setup from before. This time I have a conclusion that's going to be sufficient for an assumption. How do I know that it's sufficient? Well, I should be able to take the contrapositive by negating the assumption and therefore disproving my conclusion. Let's go back to the fast red cars example. Let's say my conclusion is my red car goes fast. A necessary assumption would be that some red cars go fast. Why? Because if we negate this statement, the result is no red cars go fast. And if no red cars go fast, then my red car can't go fast. The negation test allows us to use the contrapositive to prove that the assumption is necessary. For more tips, tricks, and theory behind the LSAT, check out 7 Sage.